So I'm sure every MMA fan saw what happened to lanky Sean O'Malley in the Merab title rematch at UFC 316 a few days ago. O'Malley had no hope in hell of beating Merab, and I actually think the UFC should pay O'Malley compensation for giving O'Malley false hope. I mean, after he got completely dominated by Merab in the first fight, the UFC should have sat him down and told him straight up that you don't have a hope in fuck of beating Merab unless you learn jiu-jitsu and grappling. And I know people will say but the UFC only pays out performance of the night bonuses to fighters who get top tier wins over their opponents, but in this case the UFC needs to start paying out delusion enabling compensation to fighters who fall victim to the UFC allowing fighters like Sean O'Malley to go to get slaughtered simply because the UFC encourage him in smoking on his own dick, because I don't know who the fuck told O'Malley he had a chance in this rematch, and I know people will say the UFC is biased towards O'Malley because they see him as the next potential big star, and that is mostly true because ever since Conor McGregor fell off the wagon, the UFC has been looking for their next huge megastar, hence why they let O'Malley have such a fast rematch against Merab. Then O'Malley ended up getting decimated, so O'Malley definitely should claim a victim of delusion enabling compensation check from the UFC, because allowing this man to smoke his own penis for the past 2 months acting like he had a chance of winning was just straight up diabolical, and the propaganda that the UFC kept on putting out to the casual MMA fans in order to make it seem like O'Malley had a good chance of winning was just exploitation of an already deluded man who actually believed if he stopped smoking weed and stopped dyeing his hair and also probably stopped cheating on his wife, he could probably win the fight. And this is the narrative the UFC pushed in order to trick morons into thinking O'Malley could get a Hail Mary and beat Merab. Now everyone is asking what is next for Sean O'Malley. What's next for him after this colossal title rematch loss? Well, in my opinion, O'Malley has one of 3 options. He can either stay at bantamweight and likely never be champion again, well, as long as Merab is champion I mean, or if he gets lucky and Merab gets deported by Trump, that's only way he could potentially see the title again at bantamweight. But while Merab is there, he has no hope in fuck, he will likely never see the belt again. Or option 2, he can move up to featherweight and work his way to a title shot in that division, or lastly he can move down to flyweight. Now let's look at which one of these 3 options he would most likely have championship success in. So if O'Malley was to move up to featherweight and somehow finesse a title shot, do you really think lanky O'Malley can beat Alexander Volkanovski? Well, it depends. I can't see O'Malley smoking on a Volkanovski pack anytime soon, but Volkanovski is getting older, and as you know, time eventually beats every fighter. But even though Volk is getting older, I can't see O'Malley beating him in 2026 if he was to move up to featherweight. Hell, I think O'Malley would even struggle to beat someone like Diego Lopez, so his best bet would to move down to the flyweight division, as I think the champion he has the best chance of beating is Pantoja. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Pantoja is a pussy, because that would also be a tough fight for O'Malley, but I'm sure if he implemented some weight bully tactics, or hell if he just manages to snipe Pantoja with his reach advantage, he could most likely knock out Pantoja in similar fashion to how McGregor knocked out Jose Aldo. But that's just my opinion on the O'Malley situation, so signing off till next time.